Recording stopped.
Okay, I'm just checking. Okay. I'm just going to text our guests. Okay, so apparently we've gone to capacity, so that's a bit of a problem if our guest speakers are in. So just give me a second. Okay, Calvin, if you can you let Sarah in?
Hi, Ramona, I'm on the call.
Oh, you're on the call. Fantastic. I'm just gonna, okay, so let me just double check with Jeremy if he's having trouble getting in, and then we'll make a start. Sorry for the little delay. This meeting's just bigger than we normally. Okay, I think we'll make a start, and I'm sure if Jeremy's having an issue, he will send me a message, so I'll keep an eye on that. But first of all, I would just like to say hello and a very good welcome to everybody this evening. This is a slightly bigger organizing local groups meeting than we usually have, but anyway, hello and welcome. And I just wanted to say a few things before we actually get started into tonight's meeting. I just wanted to say a big thank you, really, and show appreciation to all of the people on this call tonight, all of our activists, all of our members, all of our supporters, but mostly a lot our local groups and the conveners of those local groups that have worked so hard for more than a decade fighting austerity. And I know that the People's Assembly, yes, we put on big demonstrations. We've had hundreds of thousands of people on the streets of London, of Birmingham, Manchester, all through the country, really. But what's really also very important is the work that was done on local levels and is still being done in the local communities. And sometimes we never hear about those victories. Our local groups have been vital and really instrumental in saving hospitals, parks, libraries, swimming pools, and the list goes on and on. And we don't forget those things, and why it's so important. And yes, we have been on such a long journey with all of its ups and downs. Sometimes we were hopeful, and sometimes that hope was taken away from us, but we still managed to carry on, and we managed to do our best in our communities, and we pull together when we need to on a national level. So I think we are at a moment in politics where we really, change has to happen. The political system is not working for us at the moment. But I guess why there's a lot of people on this call tonight is, the announcement. First of all, I will say that the People's Assembly is a broad and open organization that will welcome anybody and any organization that is taking a stand against austerity. And we want to remain that way. But we also, lots of the local groups and lots of you as individuals have contacted me asking about this new party. So we thought it would be only right if we invited Jeremy and Zarah to come and speak to you activists this evening. So I just wanted to check, is Jeremy Corbyn in the room? So Zarah, would you mind if we go over to you then to open up this evening? Thank you. Can we unmute Sarah?
Lovely. Thank you so much, Ramona. And I'm very happy to be the warm up act for Jeremy before he gets on the call. I want to thank you for the invite and for everyone who has tuned in on their evening when they could have done so many other things. It is genuinely moving to be on this call with so many people, like Ramona said, who have been on the front line of resistance for years in workplaces, in our communities, and in our streets. And over the past decade, wherever we've seen injustice, whether it's the bedroom tax, the cuts to benefits, industrial action, racist immigration laws, cuts to youth services, to our libraries, to our NHS, there has been one constant, which is the People's Assembly. You guys have always been there, demonstrating, organizing, building power in our communities, and holding the line. And that hasn't been easy. It's been really difficult, but it's been completely necessary as part of fighting back for our communities and the working class. We obviously find ourselves at a very important juncture, a turning point, where we do have a Labour Party in government, elected not because Keir Starmer inspired anyone during the election campaign, but because people were sick of the Tories and they wanted something different. They elected a Labour government on the mandate of real change. But what we've seen are many of the same policies still in place. The two-child benefit cap remains. The welfare system is still punishing the poor and treating disabled people with very little dignity and no respect. And what we're now also recognizing and identifying and campaigning against is a British government that is arming a genocidal apartheid state. Everyone has witnessed for 2 years a live stream genocide on their phone, and we are continuing to sell arms to that genocidal state. And so it isn't just complicity, it is directly enabling and directly participating in a genocide. We all know the situation that we're facing. We have to be quite honest and blunt that Westminster is dominated by parties that serve the interests of billionaires and corporations. If you think about the freebies, if you think about the revolving door through corporations and Parliament, the holidays, and so forth. But people across the country are rightfully demanding more, and we have to deliver that. And that's why, while it doesn't have a name yet, we have launched the process of founding a new party, which has a platform name called Your Party. And it's a political project that is rooted in anti-austerity, in anti-racism, and anti-war values that we all rightfully subscribe to, built for, and by the working class. And Jeremy will stress this as well. This isn't just for elections. It is to organize and be rooted in our communities, in our social movements, and in our trade unions, truly to build power from the bottom up. And in the spirit of honesty and in the spirit of just identifying everything that you've already seen, the attacks on this have already started. The media has been trying to drag us through the dirt, and it's the same playbook they always use when the left stands up and fights back. And I've said this in my interview with Navarra that I'm from an area called Los Als, and when people try to fight you and come for you, you fight back. You stand your ground, and this time we are going to win. We are here because we recognize that no single campaign, no single MP, and no single organization can do this alone. That's what it is to be part of a movement. And that's why the role of the People's Assembly has never been more vital. Like I said before, you've spent years holding the line, and now we have to go on the offensive and build something different. A political force that doesn't just speak to people, but it's like what you guys do, listen to them. That doesn't just parachute policies from above, but wins on the ground. And that's why we're committed to making this new left party truly democratic. Our founding conference will be shaped by every person who decides to join us and attend based on the principle that I'm sure all of us can agree to: one member, one vote. And that has to be at the heart of this, that we are doing everything to making sure that people are able to attend and take part. So it has to be fully accessible for disabled comrades, carers, parents, and those on low incomes, because democracy is lovely to talk about, but it's only real when everyone can participate and have their voices heard. And we have to also address the fact that this isn't nostalgia for what might have been. We're not interested in mourning the Labour Party. The Labour Party is dead. It is dead morally, it's dead politically, and it's dead electorally. We're here to build something new, and we have to get it right because the stakes are so high. As current polling stands, Nigel Farage will be Prime Minister unless we get organised, unless we win. And the Labour leadership is obviously mimicking reform, echoing Enoch Powell, tiptoeing around inequality, trying to tinker around the edges. And at the same time, the far right has been emboldened and grows in confidence. And we know that we can't defeat them, copying their language. We defeat them by standing up without apology for migrants' rights, for peace, justice, and solidarity. And we saw that only a year ago when we had far right riots in our communities, and our communities came out. They stood up and they fought back. And so people, I understand, are feeling wary. People have given up time, energy, and hope to campaigns over the past decade. But I do believe that something has shifted. And there isn't a better sign than that. Then in the first 3 days of launching, over 500,000 people have signed up. Over 600,000 people, 600,000 have signed up. And that isn't just, a protest vote. It is the beginning of a movement. And the People's Assembly was born out of a simple conviction that we will not sit back and let people be punished for an economic crisis that they did not cause. The responsibility of that was in the City of London and by the bankers, not our communities. That conviction is still burning bright, and it's time to galvanize it, harness it, and work together. So it is incumbent on all of us on this call and not on this call to build a political force that says yes to migrants' rights and refugees, yes to public ownership, yes to climate justice, yes an end to genocide, war, and occupation, and no to the status quo where we've got billionaires who are basically running this country to the ground. I'm really excited and I'm really proud to be building this with Jeremy. And I'm even prouder to be on the side of our class and our communities and the People's Assembly in making this a successful, winnable, exciting, hopeful project. And we have an opportunity of a lifetime. We can make history together. So thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you so much for that, Sarah. And we are trying to get this meeting, we've tried to change it quickly to let 1,000 people in, but in the meantime I've given Jeremy login details, so hopefully that will work, and maybe one of the admins that have logged in can log out and see if that works. And Calvin, if you can keep a wee eye on that. If you don't mind, Sarah, and I know that it is very, very early days, but we've got a lot of people in this call, so we're not really going to take questions from anybody, but I thought that the local conveners really it'd be quite nice if we could just hear a little bit from them and sort of what's on their mind. So Calvin, if you're ready, if we could go to Helen Fields from Southampton People's Assembly.
Thank you, Ramona. Oh, thank you, Zara. It's so lovely to hear you talking like this, and I'm sure that this new initiative is going to be very successful. Now, I've got a question. I'm in the New Forest East, Southampton, and we've had lots of run-ins with Southern Water. We've had demonstrations outside Southern Water's headquarters, as initiated by our Unite community group. I think everybody agrees that privatisation of water is an absolute, it's just corruption. It has not worked. It's taken 40 years to make our seas and rivers filthy. Nobody's happy, and water is the stuff of life. But hearing Steve Reed, the Environment Secretary, wringing his hands, but then saying, oh, well, we can't talk about nationalising it because it'll cost £100 billion and it'll take years, so we can't do that. So my question is, what do you think your new party's policy would be on the water industry? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. What I want to say is all of our policies will be voted on and they will be completely democratically done. Obviously, I have an opinion and Jeremy has an opinion, and we know that privatization is basically legalized corruption when it comes to our energy companies and our water. And what we're seeing is a national scandal. Billions from these companies have been siphoned off in dividends. And like you said, sewage has been pumped into our rivers, our lakes, and our seas. And ordinary people are paying these sky high, eye-watering bills. And at the same time, they're seeing these executives walk away with bonuses, and we're told that this is the way it has to be. There can't be anything different. Obviously, I would advocate, and I will be voting and supporting any policies that support full nationalisation. But again, this will be done democratically in our inaugural conference. But I know that the side of politics that we're on, there will be probably zero controversy in being committed to bringing water and all key utilities into public ownership. No more eye-watering shareholder payouts and sewage dumping and these unaccountable boards. Because anything that you need to live, whether it's healthcare, a roof over your head, clean water, anything like that, shouldn't be allowed to be, profit driven, and we need to take that profit motive out of it. It is not a commodity. Access to water is not a commodity, it's a right, and so we need to nationalize.
Thanks very much. Thank you very much for that, Sarah. And if you don't mind, we're just going to maybe go to Bill Greenshields, Derby People's Assembly, if he's on the call.
Could you just repeat that name? Sorry.
Bill Greenshields, Derby People's Assembly, if he's not on the call. Yeah. Thank you.
Here we go. Well, it was a really important meeting tonight, and well done, Zarah and Jeremy, obviously, on breaking the mould. And let's hope something comes out of the mould that's worth having. I just wanted to say our local group in Derby has been doing a lot of work around the People's Assembly, around the People's Charter, which was adopted by the People's Assembly way back. And it identifies the problems within the society, obviously, but we're really finding, aren't we all, that the problem isn't just within capitalism, it is capitalism. That is the problem. It's the economic system and the state that serves it that are causing all the problems that we're facing at the moment in terms of poverty and human rights and injustices, and obviously the increasing authoritarian nature of the state. Now, the new party, Sarah, I've heard it variously described as a left party, a party for social justice, a socialist party, a new working class or workers' party, and we've all been around long enough to know that they may sound the same, but they're not the same. They're different things. So are we identifying capitalism as the problem, or are we identifying the problems that need to be resolved within capitalism? And if it's a workers' party, which I hope to hell it is, because it is certainly needed, there is a crisis in working class representation in politics in Britain, has been for decades and decades, obviously. And so if it is, how will the organisations of the working class, fundamentally the unions, be reflected in the leadership of the new party?
Thanks, Bill. And obviously, I have a preference for the name of the party. And I've said, I think it should be called the Left Party. I think everyone has an opinion and they are so welcome, because we have an opportunity to not just choose and shape the policies, but also the governance and even the name of this party. What I can say is that we are building a working class party, not a party that just speaks for working class people or used to at one point have a link to trade unions and working class communities, but where people like from working class communities are leading it in its branches, in its decision making, in its strategy and its vision. I believe that capitalism is at the root of all the crises that we face, whether it's climate breakdown, whether it's poverty. When we look look at war and racism. And so to have truly real solutions, we have to confront that system. And public ownership, trade union rights, anti-imperialism, and real democracy in our economy is very important. But that has to be democratically won within the party. And I hope people don't think I'm trying to have a cop out, but I can't say this is what the party will be if it is to be truly democratic. And for our inaugural conference to be democratic, we have to make sure it is by having one member, one vote. We have to do that also by making sure that trade unions are embedded in this party, in its leadership, in its direction. And so all I can say is that if that is what you want from this party, then you have to get involved and win that and organize. But to answer that question quite simply, we're building a party for working class power, but we have to do that through the structures that will be created, and we have to make sure that trade unions are part of this. Obviously, there are many trade unions that are affiliated to the Labour Party. There are some trade unions reconsidering their affiliation to the Labour Party, and there are many that are non-affiliated. And we will have conversations with trade unions, with reps, with rank and file members, and we will try to make sure that as many trade unions come on board. And we know that that won't be for everyone. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but that's where we are politically. So the more people that join us, the more people that are part of this political journey, the more people that can shape it. But that's just my opinion, and I'm just going to have the same vote as everyone else.
But a party of working class power, you said. That's a quote. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sarah. And thank you, Bill, for your questions. So that was a good starting part to this meeting. And that was a bit of a moment behind the scenes, but we have Jeremy here with us now. And so we'll open it up to Jeremy now just to have a chat. We were just, we've got quite a lot of people in here, Jeremy, a lot of whom have been instrumental in fighting back against austerity over the last decade or more. And so they're very interested to hear from yourself and Sarah. So if you just wanted to make a bit of a contribution, we might take a couple of questions and then we can move on. But thank you so much for both of you for being able to join us this evening.
Thanks, Ramona. That's great. And I've never forgotten that day in 2015 when we had an anti-austerity demonstration in Parliament Square. And Mark Sawak read out the rules about registering supporters of the Labour Party to vote in the leadership election. And he read them out 3 times to make sure everybody understood them, and they duly registered, and we made some progress as a result of that. And I want to say a big thank you to the People's Assembly for all the work it's done over a long period of time and continues to do by fundamentally challenging the austerity economics and austerity politics that we're dealing with at the present time, because we have not yet defeated austerity by any manner of means. It's fundamental to the script of the duopoly that is in Parliament at the present time. The one thing that the right were very keen to do after the 2019 election was to dismantle any notions of a foreign policy based on peace, and they wanted to dismantle any notion that the economy should be rejigged to work for redistribution of wealth and power and a fundamental transfer of that wealth and power. And that is what they've achieved with Rachel Reeves as Chancellor of the Exchequer and the policies that she's putting forward. So you have to look at the reality of what life is like for so many people in the country at the moment. Young people desperately in debt for reasons of high rent, for reasons if they've been to university of university debt, for reasons of low wages if they're in work. And the levels of personal debt and credit are absolutely enormous. That then leads into the housing crisis, where the housing waiting lists are massive. In my own borough, there are what we call it the Housing Needs Register, which has got 15,000 names on it. And in a very, very good year, the council will rehouse 1,000 people. So that's a minimum of for most people, a 15-year wait to get council housing or housing association. And the lack of regulation in the private rented sector means that many simply cannot afford to get a flat of their own. They can only get one by sharing. And whilst I welcome the renters' bill that went through Parliament as far as it went, what it didn't do was regulate rents. It, yes, gave some security, which is obviously an improvement, ended no fault eviction, obviously an improvement, but it means that
Recording in progress.
it means that those people that are in receipt of housing benefit in the private rented sector, if it's under the local housing allowance, means their rent is paid by the state. If they're over the local housing allowance, it means they have to subsidise their own rent from their benefits. So in reality, there is a massive transfer of public funds into the private landlords' pockets by this system. And so it's these issues that have to be addressed. Likewise, the attack on disability benefits. I must say, even I thought I was hearing things when I listened to Liz Kendall saying she was going to take 5 billion out of the personal independence payments budget. And the week before, Starmer and John Healey had told us they're going to increase defence expenditure to 3% of GDP, then ultimately going on to 4% and higher, which means at least 13 billion a year more going on arms expenditure. They didn't succeed in getting the PIP cut through that they wanted, which was only because of a massive campaign, particularly by organisations of people with disabilities. So well done, all of them. But we're not out of the woods on it yet by any manner of means. The Timms review is still going on. The aspiration in the Treasury budgeting is to take that 5 billion out. So the campaigning mustn't stop. It must intensify and carry on. And instead, what I proposed in Parliament was that the should be a commission on disability poverty led by the organisations representing people with disabilities, not some Treasury-led system of trying to save money. And so there's that, and there's the two-child benefit cap, which consigns so many children, probably several million, to poverty as a result of it. And whilst they're pretending there are no cuts taking place in public spending, it's simply not true. They have put more money into health, but at the same time done more privatising in health, and at the same time cut all other government departments, have been asked to make what they now call efficiency savings rather than cuts. They actually amount to the same thing. You see it in every hospital, you see it in every care home, you see it in every school. Unnecessary vacancy factors, which means people are working much longer. I was talking to a group of nurses at hospitals around North London recently, big call we made through the RCN, and they were just relating how much time they give in unpaid overtime at the end of each shift, waiting for a nurse to come on who's usually an agency nurse. And so that is unpaid work being given to the NHS by very dedicated nurses. Happens in local government, happens all over. So there are massive issues of anger. And the last thing I'd say on policy issues is that the point that Zarah was just making about public ownership. The public ownership of water is, to me, an irrefutable case. It's a basic, absolute necessity. Very few countries in the world allow the private sector to run the water industry. Britain does. And the Secretary of State, Steve Reed, keeps telling all of us that he is fully wedded to tough regulation of the water industry. We've had so-called tough regulation for 30 years. We have more pollution than ever, more foul water than ever, higher water prices than ever, more burst mains than ever, more waste than ever. Why? Because the amount of money that's been taken out of the industry by hedge funds, investors, executive pay, you name it, it's gone out of the industry. So what's the answer? I think you and I, all of us, and speaking collectively here, would know what our answer would be. Their answer is to regulate the regulators and have a new regulator to regulate the regulations. It's bonkers. It's complete bonkers. It's bunkum. What we should be doing is taking the water industry as a whole into public ownership and not run it like a state institution where you have a board appointed by the government, run it at a regional river basin management style of things with workers' involvement, with local community involvement, etc., to make sure it's democratic and links up with the work of the Environment Agency. All very obvious stuff. And they then claimed that it would cost 100 billion to nationalize the water companies. We own it, as pointed out, the maximum cost is 5 to 15 billion, a big difference. And in any event, that would, for my book, be paid through treasury bonds, and the share price would be set by taking account of the pollution, the executive pay, the waste, and the excessive profits that have been made to show the water industry we mean business. All these things point to a complete failure of the political system in Parliament to deal with these issues. And so I stood as an independent a year ago, and thank you to all those that came and helped. We got an amazing result and we won. After a lot of thought, we've launched a new political party, yourparty.uk. That is the working name and working title. Obviously, a conference will finally decide on what the name should be and what the structure should be. And that is obviously a matter for comradely, intense debate on how we do it. But there's two things come to this. One is we've had 600,000 people sign up to it, which is far more than the collective membership of all the other political parties put together. So the number of people that have shown support and interest, they're not all members, because the party isn't there to join. It will be in a matter of hours or days, but so it's nevertheless 600,000 is a massive figure by anybody's book. But also around the country there are very effective groups of independents. We're going to be working together. Many of those will have joined anyway, but I see a structure that engages all of them in our operations and in our work. Likewise, most, but not all, trade unions are affiliated to the Labour Party. All trade unions have political views. Every trade union member has views. And so it is a question of how that entity too is represented within the party. And likewise, the groups and campaigns such as People's Assembly, the disability campaigns, and so many others need to be there and need to be represented. And so I'm spending a lot of time talking to people, listening, getting lots of great ideas sent in, and we're sending out an email tomorrow to all of the 600,000 that have registered their names and shown their support for starting this party underway. This is an amazing opportunity to turn politics on its head, and it's beginning to have an effect even in the mainstream media. History was made this morning. Sky News reported an article I'd written in The Guardian without snide remarks, without snarling, without describing me as somebody with the horns on and the devil incarnate. They actually quoted what I'd said. And so that's underway. The leadership, insofar as it is a leadership, because we actually want the whole thing to become an entirely democratic organization, is being stewarded through by the Independent Alliance MPs, the 6 of us. And we are just basically arranging a lot of meetings and rallies and things. I'm doing a big one in Lancashire on the 28th of August as a way of Saturday is the 30th of August, as a big way of mobilizing people all over Lancashire, doing similar things all over the country, as a way of bringing people together, listening to all those views and taking it forward. We can turn this into something very powerful and very important and very special. It's not just about elections. Elections, of course, are important. Accountability of elected representatives, of course, is important. But real political power actually comes from what people do at the workplace, in their community. And it is about ensuring that all of our active members are equally active within their communities. So we build that whole issue up. I attempted to turn the Labour Party into a community organising unit. We made some progress on that. The opposition was intense to doing it. And we learned, or I particularly learned an awful lot from that. So I'm determined that we're going to have community-based, democratic, determined party to bring about real change, real transfer of wealth, real transfer of power. And it's extremely exciting prospect. 600,000 people signing up is not to be sniffed at, not to be sneezed at. It's an amazing achievement. And that's all happened in 168 hours. So we're underway. And I want to work with all of you in the People's Assembly. Thanks, Ramona, for inviting me on. And thank you all for all that you do to fight back against the mainstream. Against the received wisdom, you can't do anything. Against the received wisdom, there's no alternative to war. Yes, there is. Sustainability, peace, environment, humanity, human rights. We're the alternative to reform. And you know what? We're better, bigger, and stronger than reform. Thank you very much.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you so much, Jeremy Corbyn. And I was just listening to everything you said. And obviously we've got quite a big meeting here, so we weren't opening it up for questions. And we're only just going to some conveners. I think, is Tony Dowling in the room? Tony, PA Northeast. I think we've got a couple of questions from our conveners left. And then I think the very last part of this meeting, we're going to try and organize ourselves. So maybe we'll go to Tony. See what
you very kindly sent me a copy of Tony's question. Tony, but Tony, let's hear it anyway.
I am here. Yeah, thanks for that, Jeremy, and thanks to Zarah for the contribution earlier as well. It's very exciting to hear all of this, and I loved what she had to say. But yeah, Jeremy, back in June 2015, my screen's gone now. There we go. Everything's going wrong this evening, because there's so many people on this call. Everything is crashing, isn't it? So I've lost my question now, but so perhaps
I think that Jeremy might have answered that.
I've got your question, Tony, and I'll quote it back. What I would say, this call was really hilarious in a way. I came onto the call, logged on with the information I was given kindly by Ramona, and it said the meeting's full. You can't come on. I remember the days before I became the MP of Islington North Labour Party. Anyone that tried to join who didn't fit the particular niche the then leadership wanted was told the party was full. Now, I'm sure People's Assembly wouldn't do that to anybody. And so anyway, we got on eventually. Thanks, Ramona. And what your question was, Tony, you said back in 2015, as you were about to enter the Labour leadership contest, you said, what I want to see at the end of this is a stronger left in this country, a social movement opposed to austerity. On international policy, we need to build a different foreign policy that isn't based on military global reach, nuclear weapons, nuclear annihilation, or starting one war after another. I trust you still wish to see these things. And how would you envisage the relationship? Well, yes, I do want to see those things. I'm working on those things all the time and will continue to do so. The relationship with People's Assembly obviously has got to be a working one, an effective one, and I think we can do an awful lot of stuff together. What the formal relationship will be, I can't really say yet. I think we just need to sit down and talk about that, but obviously there's got to be a relationship with the People's Assembly. How could there not be?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jeremy. And Zarah, any last words of inspiration for our conveners, our organisers and supporters this evening? Unmute Zarah, please.
Sorry, my nephew was playing around, so I had to mute myself very quickly. Just a simple few words from me. We're very excited about what we're building, and we want everyone to feel like this is something that they can get involved in. And like I said, the threat we have at the moment is socialism or barbarism in 2029, and we've got 4 years to making sure that socialism is victorious and what wins in that election. So I'm honored to be part of this with all of you, and we've got a lot of work to do together.
Okay, so thank you once again, Jeremy Corbyn, Zarah Sultana. Thank you so much. We're going to now have a chat amongst ourselves and see how we can build better for the future within our communities. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks very much for your time. Well done, everybody. We're going to be seeing a lot of each other. And what if I may, Ramona, as we organise what I'm guessing will probably be regional meetings such as the Lancashire one, let's share that information out so that supporters of People's Assembly in all parts of the country can come along to those events. Would that be possible?
I think working together with anybody and everybody that's on an anti-austerity platform is our pleasure, Jeremy.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you so much. I guess that this has taken up most of the meeting. I hope, can I just ask if people, I know I've just heard from Paula Peters, and she is correct that the emojis are coming up on the screen and it's not very accessible. So sorry about that. And I'm sorry to anybody. We just didn't know how to turn them off once they started. And I think sometimes with the settings of these things, if they're not done before the meeting starts, then yeah, unfortunately, it's hard to figure it out. Behind the scenes, we were trying and we paid some money to increase the capacity, but unfortunately, it wouldn't apply to this meeting. But I'm sure there would have been 1,000 people or more at this meeting tonight. But it just shows you how we are in a very good position to start again, rebuilding some groups that maybe are a bit more quiet than they have been in recent years. At the height of the People's Assembly, we had 125 functioning groups in this country, doing so much good, working in the community and pulling together massively when we needed to turn up and show up for national events or national campaigns. I know this meeting is it's too big to probably open a discussion in terms of what we're doing in local groups. So I think this was a good starting point for us to come together. What we want to do, moving on from this meeting, we will be in touch with everybody tomorrow. So if you're on this call and you are a People's Assembly supporter or member and you're not yet in a local group, then please join your local group. If you can't find your local group, we'll put it in the chat now. It's email us at office@thepeoplesassembly.org.uk, and we've got a team of people that are ready to help move people into local groups. If you cannot find a local group, then we would encourage you to set up a local group. And we also have people on hand that we're going to walk you through the whole process. After this meeting, as I say, I think because it's so large, if we can just think about that, this is hard to be an organizing meeting the way we've got it set up as well, and people are muted, and that was for a reason, and the chat was closed. That was for a reason as well, because it would have been a bit overwhelming. So I would suggest the next steps is have a think about what everything was said here tonight. We know that we need to throw everything at this now. All of us organizations are important. The People's Assembly have a fantastic infrastructure that works well with some of the best people in the country, the best organizers. They have fantastic networks and they know exactly how to do things. If you're not used to organizing, you want to team up with these people in local groups. And what we would be suggesting from the People's Assembly going forward is that, yes, we do the national campaigns, but it's so vitally important that every local group goes into their own community. What's important to you? What's important in your community? What is the big issues? And then what we would like to do is hold the local People's Assembly group and hear from everybody what you're campaigning on. And then also we will tie that in with something that's national that affects everybody in the country as well. And again, we'll be supporting and have support from our guests this evening and anybody that is willing and wants to stand in an anti-austerity platform. So I hope that you got something good out of this meeting this evening, and I'm stand by for the next steps from the People's Assembly. I think we're in a very good position right now. I think there's lots of opportunity, there's lots of hope. And I think that we've got the right people in the right network, and we just need to start the broader organizing, building our groups and moving forward to win this fight going forward. So with that, I wish you all a very good evening, and look out in your mailbox for more information on the next steps, the next group meeting, and anything that you need to know in terms of getting yourself into a local group or setting one up. So solidarity to all of you, and thank you for absolutely everything that you've been doing over more than a decade. And we will all talk again very soon.